brief introduction of Dr. Mitsuhiro Mimura. He is Senior Research Fellow at Economic Research Institute for Northeast Asia. He is also a visiting professor, Northeast Asian Studies College at Chilin University, Changchun in China since 2013. Dr. Mimura's research focus is on economic cooperation between North and South Korea. A subject of current interest after Inter-Korean Summit held on 27 April 2018. However, today he is speaking on a different subject where he has done a lot of field work on China-Pakistan economic corridor. This subject certainly is of great interest to us in India, as it affects our interest also. A brief on China-Pakistan economic corridor. In May 2013, Chinese Premier and Pak President agreed to build economic corridor between the two countries. This is a collection of projects which are presently under construction throughout Pakistan. These include transport networks, energy projects, special economic zones, highways, and many other things. Important is Karakoram Highway, which is 1300 kilometers long between Kashgar in Xinjiang to Islamabad. Other important is Karachi-Lahore motorway and Gwadar port project is also part of the CPEC. CPEC is expected to rapidly modernize Pak infrastructure and strengthen economy. In November 2016, CPEC became partly operational when Chinese cargo was shipped from Gwadar to Africa and West Asia. This is the main plank, CP is the main plank of Chinese President Xi Jinping's Belt and Road Initiative. With these introductory remarks, I hand over to Dr. Mimura.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to have this kind of very precious occasions here in Institute of Chinese Studies, India. And as introduced, actually I'm is a North Korean economic specialist and doing mainly North Korean economy and South-North economic relations in the Korean Peninsula, and also economic cooperation within Northeast Asia. That means both Korea's and China's Northeast three provinces and Inner Mongolia, and Russian Far East, east of Baikal Lake, and Mongolia, and Japan. And since I am keenly interested in Belt and Road Initiative of China, because after reconciliation of North Korea-US relations, the Korean Peninsula will be a part of Belt and Road Initiative, and it's very short way. So now Chinese people are building is a CPEC. It is that more than 3,000-4,000 kilos, and to Moscow it will be 10,000. But actually, from Chinese border of city of Dandong in Liaoning province, to Pyongyang, it is only 225 kilos. And from the Dandong city to Seoul, South Korea, it will be only 475 kilos. That means if China starts to have an operation on a road or a railway or high-speed rail, then it will come true in very short period, within 5 years. And also, South Korean government has a plan to improve North Korean infrastructure. So, in case that there is a good news on June 12th U.S. North Korea summit meetings, then there will be a competition among Japan, China, and South Korea about cooperation with North Korea. So in that sense, I'm very interested in China's way of doing business. I mean, doing cooperation with surrounding countries. So I have interest in mainly 3 parts of China's Belt and Road Initiative. On the road, and for the ocean part, it is a little bit difficult, so I will do later. But anyway, I have interest in Southeast Asian route. That means from Yunnan province down to Thailand. And another route is China-Pakistan economic corridor, Kashgar to Gwadar. And the other is Central Asia, is a port of Piraeus in Greece. And also there is a project of high-speed railway between Hungary and Serbia. So this time I decided to go through all the way of Karakoram Highway from Kashgar to Islamabad, and also plan to visit Gwadar port. That is, the Chinese are making special economic zones right now. And I started from Japan on the 27th of April, and first had a flight to Shanghai and stay the one night, and flight to Urumqi, that is the capital of Xinjiang province, autonomous district. And then stay one night and flew to Kashgar, and then stay one night and took a bus to us. Okay, I will show you that. Oh. Okay, this is a map. Thank you. So this is Kashgar, and it takes some 6 hours by bus to Tashkurgan, China. And here is about the elevation of 1,300 meters. Here is 3,100 meters. And I stayed 3 nights there because May the first they have a holiday there, so the customs were not open. And on the second, the bus came from Pakistan to China, but it arrived in the evening, so they have to stay one night. So on the 3rd of May, I started Tashkurgan, and then go on the Punjab Pass, and then arrived in Sust, Pakistan. And then I went to Hunza, the Karimabad, and after that through Gilgit and Karakoram Highway up to Islamabad. And it's about 1,300 kilometers is a trip. And this is Kashgar. And Kashgar, before there are more Uyghur population, but after they have built the railway from Torfan near Urumqi, and then there are more and more Han people coming there. And now there's a proposition of Han people are bigger. But anyway, Kashgar has a very popular tourist destination, both for domestic tourists and also international tourists, like Japanese, South Koreans, and other people. And there are also Han people and Uyghur people. And the city looks like, the new city looks like just a small city in China, but the old city looks like very Uyghur-like. And Tashugurgan is a very small town with inhabitants of Tajiks, called in Tajiks in China. And actually the people are like the same people with Hunza, and also Wahan is people in Afghanistan. And it's 3,000 meters, and I had some difficulty on the day of arrival because the altitude was so high. But in 3 days I get better. Yes, and Tashugurgan has a very small shopping street, and like this there are so many Tajiks, but you cannot see. Well, it is a little bit difficult to take a picture of locals because the women don't like to be get pictured. So, and after that I took a bus from Tashugurgan, and it took 6 hours from Tashugurgan to Sost immigration in Pakistan. And the highest point was 4,733 meters, and it was snowing. So this time I prepared the clothes from -10 to +40. And now I'm suffering from the hot weather. But anyway, since I was in the flag ceremony and I was out of in the sunlight for more than 3 hours every day, so now I get accustomed to a hot weather. But actually, when I crossed the China-Pakistan border, it was snowing and -2 degrees. And this is the borderline. And actually, in Chinese side, their border control is so strict, so there are no tourists coming to see the border itself. But at the Pakistan side, you can see some people there. But there were a bunch of people, more than 100, who came to see the border. So actually, China is very afraid of Islamic powers, and they don't know how Muslims are. So regardless of the type of religion, like Sunni or Shia or 12th Imam, from the Chinese viewpoint, Islam is Islam. So they are very afraid, and their controls are very strict. So I felt a sense of freedom when I crossed the border and entered Pakistan. Because in China, you cannot take a picture a lot, outside picture from the bus. But in Pakistan, you can take everything, including ibex or some other wild animals and some yaks and the sheep and the goats. And this is the bus I took from Tashgurgan to Sust. And this is a Toyota, actually second-hand car, which was before used in Japan. So the DVD players had the Japanese DVD, but nobody understood the Japanese language, so they just listened to some music. Then the bus was very good, and very surprisingly, almost all the cars and trucks in Pakistan were made in Japan. This one, Hino trucks and the Toyota cars. And so Suzuki, yes. Suzuki is, you can see Suzuki Maruti here in India too. And yeah, and the Honda also. And in that sense, cars are better in Pakistan than India, in the sense that they have big cars in Pakistan, and 1,300 cc, 105,000 cc's. And in big cities, like Karachi, they have 600 cc, what do you say, Japanese small cars, second-hand small cars, which I'm very familiar, like in a city in Japan. But anyway, they have not so much big automobile industry, so they just import second-hand cars and new cars from Japan. And as for big oil transportation trucks, some Chinese trucks are also imported and used. And this is Hunza, is Gilgit-Baltistan, Pakistan, and the altitude is around 2,500 meters. But these mountains are over 7,000 meters, and they're very, very beautiful. And actually, before 9/11, there were so many Japanese visited Hunza, and Hunza is very famous among the Japanese tourists and backpackers. And I wanted to visit here once, and it was very nice. And without my field trip, I wanted to stay here for more than 1 week. But anyway, I stayed there only for 3 days, and went to Islamabad. And there were some cars granted from China. It's a CPEC road, is a police cars. So that car was very unusual Chinese car running in Hunza. Most of, maybe 85% of the cars in Hunza are made in Japan. And this is Karakoram Highway in Hunza part, and the road is very good. And the width of road is about 6 meters, and in the curved place, when the condition is good, then it is 9 meters width. And what I was surprised was that upper Hunza, the upper part of Karakoram Highway was very good, because China started their building work from Chinese border and going down to Gilgit. And then until some 100 kilometers south of Gilgit, the road is made by Chinese, and the width is very wide, 6 meters or 9 meters, and also paved very good. So when I started the car in Gilgit heading to Islamabad, I felt that this is 600 kilometers from Gilgit to Islamabad. And I thought, it will be some 8 hours from Gilgit to Islamabad. And I expected like that. But from 100 kilometers away, the road suddenly became very bad. And also the road post became from the China-Pakistan road to their own infrastructure. And then the road became 4.5 meter width and paved, but with a lot of holes. And some part there are running half among the big rock that is almost falling, and the speed was very low.
Sorry, who maintained the road up to Gilgit from China side?
This is the road is maintenance by Pakistani people, but also a Chinese company has a branch office here in Hunza. So they are giving technical assistance, but the daily work the Pakistanis do. But for the when the big rocks came down and the pavement was destroyed, then the Chinese equipment who come and help them to make a road paved again. And this is a way how the Chinese do the work, this kind of things. And they have concrete under the asphalt. And the asphalt itself is a 5 centimeters depth, but underneath there is a concrete. So it's very durable. And this is there are new tunnel. When maybe in 2000 something, I forgot the year, but there was a big landslide that prevented the river to flow. And there is a very big lake in the middle of Hunza, and old Karakoram Highway became underneath of the water. So the China made an assistance to build 5 tunnels, including 2 very long tunnels. And now it just takes an hour and a half, 45 minutes from Sost border to Islamabad, and an hour and a half from Islamabad to Gilgit. So upper part from Gilgit and the north, the roads are very good. So almost all the cars running about 80 kilometers an hour, 90 kilometers an hour. Some drivers, my driver drove over 100. But anyway, the road is very good, and the number of cars are not so much. Mainly is passenger cars, not so much trucks or oil tankers. At this moment, because it was May the 2nd that when the border between China and Pakistan opened. So there was not so much Chinese trucks coming to Pakistan yet. And this is the tunnel. And is legally the maximum speed is 40, but then actually it's more than 80, because the road is very good. That is the case in China too. And in China there is some radar, automatic radar that takes you a picture, and you get fined after that. But here in Hunza there was no such kind of facilities. Then the people are very freely to speed up. And next, I lost some pictures because I copied the file to my computer wrongly. So I have to look for get a photo from my iPhone to my computer, but I had no time to do so. So next, I would like to show the port of Gwadar. And I went to Gwadar, but almost nobody in Japan, except for some newspaper reporters, visited Gwadar. And I just asked a Japanese professor whose major is Pakistani politics. And I said to him, "Oh, I'd like to go to Gwadar." So he said, No, it's not possible. It's a very troublesome place and you cannot go. So I first thought that I cannot go, but anyway I asked one travel agency to ask for the government authorization to go to Gwadar. And I started to apply the authorization in the middle of February. And it was issued on the 9th, in the afternoon of 9th of May. Just 20 hours before I was going to Gwadar. Then from Islamabad I took a night flight to Abu Dhabi, and changed a flight in Abu Dhabi to Muscat, Oman, and I took a flight Oman to Gwadar. Then on the 10th, I arrived in the 1:45. I arrived in Gwadar. But anyway, it was a very long way from Islamabad to Gwadar because there was no flight on the 10th of May. So from Karachi to Gwadar. So I was originally planning to take a morning flight from Islamabad to Muscat, and it just take 3 hours. But I took 4 hours to Abu Dhabi and waited 5 hours there, and flew 1 hour to Muscat and just waited for 4 hours in Muscat. Anyway, it was a very long trip, but and I was not able to enter the port itself because the port authority said that in order to save Chinese workers in the construction place, we cannot have any foreign guests except for Chinese. Well, Japan is a kind of a rival of China, so they don't want Japanese to come in. But then I stayed in a hotel just next to the port. So I took this photo. You can see is a Chinese flag and Pakistan flag here. And actually, I took this photo from my room. And they were now making construction. And the Gwadar port has that kind of 50 tons gantry cranes and 30 tons gantry cranes. So the port itself is not so much big at this moment. So maybe some 3 million tons per year, 4 million tons per year. But the question is that the road between Gwadar and Karachi are not so much good at this moment. But as it is the playing field, not a mountainous area. So I think the construction work will finish in some 4 or 5 years. And the question is that the Islamabad to Gilgit part. It is very mountainous area, and a part of that area, Asian Development Bank granted a loan to Pakistan, and they are making a very, very good motorways, 2 lanes each, with 120 kilos limit speed. But it's only for some 80 kilometers from Islamabad, Peshawar motorway, M2. And from there, yes, they are building some 180 or 200 kilometers motorway north to the direction of Gilgit. But after that, there are so many difficulties because of the mountains and rivers of the Karakoram Highway.
Who's building 200 kilometer road? 200 kilometer road?
Is now the motorway is the project is granted by Asian Development Bank.
That's 80 kilometers.
Now is 80 kilometer is already completed.
Okay, good.
Some 100 kilos are under construction, and there is some Chinese construction company came to build the part. But the money is not from China, but from ADB. So, according to a CPEC plan, the Gilgit to Islamabad, north of Gilgit part will be done in 2030, including railway and gas pipeline and oil pipeline. But I don't think it's very difficult to build a high mountains. The highest point is 4,733 meters.
2030 you said?
4,700.
2030 is the timeline. 2030. Or 2013.
4,733.
Yeah. 2030.
the passage. So in order to make a railway, it's a little bit hard. It's hard. Maybe they have to make some 30 kilometers, 50 kilometers longer tunnel, and the safety of oil and gas pipeline, blah blah blah. So there will be a huge investment for that part. So they are doing easier part, like Lahore-Karachi motorway. That is on the playing field, and if you just invest cement and asphalt and iron, is the metals, then you can build that kind of part. And also for Pakistani economy, the Lahore and Karachi motorway is a very good use. So that is practical and also not so much money consuming for them to do so.
And this is Chinese road, Lahore, Karachi.
That is, yes, money is from there, and also a Chinese company are helping Pakistani company to build that. Anyway, yes, grant are from China, but they have to repay on that part. For Gwadar, the city of Gwadar, they are building some. They help to renovate the local hospital, and some in front of the port there is a emergency hospital, mainly for the builders of the ports, but also people in Gwadar can also use that. So China gave a lot of aid to Gwadar, and that is free. But as for other projects, economic projects, that concessionary loan or some kind of loan that Pakistan has to repay from the year of 2022, I think. So this, at this moment, yes, it looks very good. China is investing money, and they are building a lot of things, and there are more employment, and Pakistani economy seems to be growing very fast.
Chinese workers are coming for this?
Some, yeah. And unlike the case in Laos, where all the workers are from China, well, it's very near. Just from Chinese border, there are some 100 kilo, 50 kilo, 200 kilo, 400 kilo. So it is possible for them to come on force. But to Pakistan, even for them, it is a little bit long way to come. So it's engineers and technicians is moving some machinery, the Chinese, and just the workers are almost Pakistani people.
So, sir, are they facing a lot of security threat, especially the Chinese around Gwadar and all?
As for Gwadar, yes, Gwadar port, almost all the people are working, the Chinese, and they are living in a very, it's a closed, is a compound. So the port of Gwadar is then surrounded by a barbed wire, and nobody can come in, and nobody can go out. Even the workers and engineers from China cannot go out to the city of Gwadar with a proper guide. I mean, is a guard. And actually, what I felt in Gwadar was that actually I went to is a bazaar and the city center and walked around. Of course, as it is a rule there in Gwadar, I walked with police officers, but it's very.
You can walk alone there?
It is so in Gwadar. Foreigners can go outside from the dawn to the sunset, and foreigners should be guarded by policemen.
During that period, dawn to sunset?
Yes, so in the daytime. Even in the daytime, the policemen have to accompany you. And they accompanied me, but then I walked around in the bazaar and some beach and other places. But I felt no hostile feelings of these people.
Did you ask?
No, it's just feeling. Feeling.
Did you ask the policeman with you?
Yeah?
Did you ask the policeman who were with you why they are there?
Yes, I asked. And this is a rule.
So, but did they take you for Chinese or Japanese?
Almost all the people thought.
They are very friendly to Japanese there.
But also, I think Gwadar people are very kind to Chinese too, because China helps Gwadar a lot. Building a very good hospital and refurbished the original hospital, and schools are also given an aid from China. So that is also, well, that is also the case in China-Russia relations. So Moscow people say that, oh, we are afraid of China. We don't like Chinese. That is Chinese populations are coming and invade our Far East, because there are more than 100 million population in Northeast China, but in the Far East Russia has only 7 million. So the Moscow people are always afraid of China. So Chinese invasion. There is no invasion, because without a proper passport and visa, Chinese cannot come, because there's a barbed wire all the way from the North Korean border to the Kazakhstan border. So because the relations between China and Russia, Soviet Union was so bad, so the whole China-Russian border is covered with the barbed wire. But if you go to the city, the border city of some Ussurisk or some port city of Vladivostok in Far East, they use a lot of Chinese products. They import Chinese tomato. That is not very much good, and they don't think so. But in winter, they have to anyway import tomato from China. Otherwise, they have to get it from Azerbaijan. But it will be frozen when it is passing Siberia, and it takes 8 days, 9 days. So anyway, they have to import. And there's a Far Eastern people likes Chinese and likes Chinese products and want to do business with China and want to have more infrastructure projects with China. But Moscow's politicians don't like that kind of thinking. Oh, they are selling out our country. But actually, the Gwadar people is also, Gwadar is helped by China, so Gwadar people is very happy. Gwadar city people, I don't know the Balochistan independent activists think. They are killing a lot of Chinese-related people. So the Pakistani government is very afraid of that kind of things happen in Gwadar, because that will stop the whole project. So, but anyway, my feeling is that the people in Gwadar is very good to Chinese people, and also they didn't ask. In other cities like Karachi or Lahore, people ask me, "Hey, where I'm from? China? No. Korea? No. Japan? Whoa." So there are very small number of Japanese visitors, and these days the Chinese and Korean backpackers visit Pakistan often. So, but anyway, yes, in Pakistan people are very friendly to Japanese, and they say Toyota, Hino, yes. Oh, thank you very much. But I am from Osaka, so Daihatsu is from Osaka. So I was very happy to see Daihatsu cars in Karachi. But anyway, so they are building, this is special economic zones. And this is new building. And there are Chinese, and there is another old building, and there in Pakistani people are there. So this is completely a Chinese compound, and Chinese company is now building special economic zone facilities, like a warehouse and some truck base or something. And this is also built. And I took a picture from my room. So my hotel was so nice. I think it's better than from inside taking pictures, this kind of pictures, because our hotels are on the hill, about 50 meters hill. So it was a very good scenery. And so my feeling was that if the security situation of Gwadar became better, Gwadar is actually a very beautiful city facing Arabic Sea, and it's a little bit hot. And the problem is that their water, their tap water is a little bit salty. Not so much salty, 0.23%, 1%. So you can use soap, but if you drink, then everything is salty. So if you make chai, it's okay. It's very good taste. But if you make a green tea, oh, it was very bad taste. I made a Japanese green tea and tried. It was very strange. Something is wrong. And I asked my guide, I made a tea this morning, but it tastes a little bit ridiculous. And he said, that is salty water, so I will buy you a good water, and then you can boil it and drink. And actually, so Pakistani government built desalinization is a center just nearby the sea, but because of the cost of running, they are not moving. So Gwadar people are very, in that sense, not very much satisfied with the Pakistani central government, and want others like China to invest more in Gwadar. So in that sense, yes, the security situation gets better. I think there are more opportunity for Gwadar to be invested not only by Chinese but also other countries, including Japan. For tourism, yes, I think it's also not bad, and because Gwadar has already an airport with 1,500 meters, so only turboprop air can go, not 830 or Boeing 737. But China is going to grant a new airport, and the Pakistani side requests 3,000 meter runway that can have Airbus 380. And I don't think no 380 comes to Gwadar because there is no hotel room enough for that. Okay. And also, on the way back to Gwadar, I flew to Karachi, and then I was also wanted to buy a car from Karachi and Lahore, but it was too long and too hot and time consuming, so I flew from Karachi to Lahore. And yesterday I left Lahore and crossing the Wagah border and entered from Atari border through India. So yesterday I went to a flag ceremony in Indian side, and the day before yesterday I went to a flag ceremony from Pakistan side. So I was suffered from 38, 39 degrees and the direct sunlight for 5 hours because I have to go well in advance. But that made 2 days experience made me adapt to very hot weather. And after I arrived in Delhi, oh, it's not very hot. It's good, I felt. And there is also some kind of a touristic atmosphere. So I asked the ranger to take a photo with me, but actually there was some company that makes markup with the picture or with a ranger. So if you don't pay, you cannot get a picture of the ranger. So that is very commercial place. And the one is not officer, is maybe, what to say, below the officer.
Yes, you.
NCO.
Inspector. Yeah, one inspector was very friendly with that merchant. So there was some corruption on receiving. Maybe these rangers are funded by that kind of money for their fringe benefit. But anyway, they are doing very hard work, both sides, Indian rangers also and the Pakistani rangers. So every day they are working as a high about 90 degrees. And yesterday in the Indian side, I was surprised to see more than 1,000 people were there. And even though the relations with Pakistan, India and Pakistan, that's not good, but there I felt a very peaceful feeling that I was able to take any picture on the Wagah border, even both in Pakistan side, Indian side.
Was security an issue on the Pakistani side? They were terror-attacked.
Yes, yes. So in order to enter the Wagah border from Pakistani side, there are 3 checkpoints to enter there. But looking at somebody from China or Japan or Korea, okay, just although I have to go through the metal detector, but they don't check anything. And at the 3rd checkpoint, an inspector officer asked me, "Do you have a pistol?" Huh? Do you have a pistol? Looking at my dad, do you have a pistol? No. Okay. But anyway, because I crossed the Chinese-North Korean border or some borders, or Chinese-Russian border. The Russian side is very strict. If you take a picture, then you have to, your camera will be taken away, and they erase all the related pictures. And in North Korea, there will be more problem. You have to stay one night there for taking a very unfriendly picture of our country. So in that sense, India and Pakistan are very good countries, and it's democratic countries, and unlike North Korea. And in Russia, they are afraid of Chinese, so it's very strict. And in North Korea, they are very afraid of US spies, South Korean spies coming in, so they are very afraid. But anyway, I was very happy to visit here, and I felt that, yes, there are some, even though the relation is not so much good, but there are some hope that in the future, India and Pakistan can cooperate each other and develop your economy. Of course, with the help of China, with the help of Japan or other countries, but anyway, the trade relationship is now increasing between the two countries. So I hope someday there will be more people going back and forth between India and Pakistan. Like I hope more people will go back and forth between South Korea and North Korea. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Mimura. House is open for questions.
Conversations with the Pakistani academicians, economists, and general people. What is the sense you get? Do they feel that the CPEC will really transform the country? Or, for example, if you remember, the Dawn newspaper had actually leaked out a document that if serious doubts in the Pakistani economists' mind, the public mind, as well as the Chinese mind, about the viability of the entire project. So I'm just wondering, I mean, what kind of impression would you have? That's one question. Second question is this. The recent meeting between Li Keqiang and Prime Minister Abe and the South Korean president. After that, the bilateral meetings between the Chinese and the Japanese prime ministers. There is an agreement to actually have a committee to actually work on projects, the BRI projects together. I'm just wondering, does it in any way, is it consistent with the Japanese plans to build the connectivity projects, across Southeast Asia and South Asia, and then we talk about South Asia, Africa, corridor. Is there any consistency with that, or you think there is no consistency between the two positions that the Japanese government is taking?
For the first question, I visited the Board of Investment of Pakistan and asked the kind of question, and they said that we welcome investment from all over the world. So we will welcome investment to a CPEC project. And some projects are already is agreed to do between China and Pakistan, but other like special economic zone projects that is open to any country, including Japan. But the question is, nobody comes. So we want Japanese come and to make business, but you don't come. Then we need money, we need investment, we need infrastructure. So if you don't invest, then China will invest. So the Pakistani side thinking is that if nobody invests other than China, then they have no way but accept Chinese investment. Although it might be a little bit dangerous in some sense.
How?
Because they are granting money too much, and they have to repay.
So economic viability.
Yes, yes, because economically they have to, when they have to repay the interest also, then it will be kind of their foreign revenue is not so much big, so it will be might be problematic. But anyway, they need the infrastructure. And yes, and then after and for the question 2. Yes, we have no consistency at this moment, but we have to. And this is my personal opinion, but in June 12th, the US-North Korea summit talk, the output will be very good and very big. Then, after the reconciliation between North Korea and the United States, the Trump administration might move back army in South Korea, and then our East Asian countries should be more independent from the United States.
I'm sorry, I actually meant that this Li Keqiang Shinzo Abe meeting, an agreement to actually have a joint committee for Japanese investment in BRI projects.
Yeah.
Already ahead of the 12th June summit. That's a different
reason. Yes. And what I'd like to say is that now, yes, the bilateral summit is also, and in a trilateral meeting, is a China-South Korea, Japan meeting. Prime Minister Abe said that about the North Korean nuke problem, CVID is the most important for the first time.
Sorry?
CVID, complete in...
And verifiable.
Yes. But at the communication which was announced after the summit, there were no CVID. Because South Korea and China said no to that. So now Japan and China and South Korea is practicing how to deal with our problem by ourselves in a very cautious way. But if before the Prime Minister Abe was very angry about that, to say something afterwards to the reporters in Japan, but he said nothing. So we are now doing practicing to deal with this very big and important problem among ourselves. So the bilateral meetings also, so Japan and China would like to have a not good relation, because we are rivals, but we have to have enough organizations to solve our problems ourselves. That is the reason why we are making a lot of new organizations, including a military and economic ties with China.
You know what you said about the Pakistani authorities saying that we want you to come and invest, but you don't come and bring money, so we have no option but to go to the Chinese. That reminded me of the conversation that I was having at one time with the Prime Minister of Laos. And I was actually basically saying that, why don't you give opportunities for, you know very well the quality of the work being done by the Chinese companies is not very good. And he said, but yes, Ambassador, if your companies want to come and they want to bring the money, we will welcome them, but you don't come. So we have no option but to go to China. And they all know the dangers of going to China. Not just because of basically borrowing too much of money, but they know that the huge influence which China will then have on their economy. My question really is, I have had experience of several Chinese projects in Southeast Indochina. And wherever they execute a project, there is a huge social impact on the people. In the sense, development of the markets where the Chinese can buy their goods, the Chinese restaurants, the Chinese entertainment, all that kind of thing. So did you see that anywhere along the route of the CPEC where there is a Chinese concentration and the influence that it has on the life or on the like in Gwadar? Number one. Number two, banking. Again, strangely, whenever there is a huge number of Chinese, you see that the currency becomes renminbi. The shops begin to accept the Chinese currency, etc., etc. Did you see this happening also in Pakistan?
Okay. For the question number one, yes. So they say that yes, we like Hino, Toyota, but if you don't invest, then it will be a FAW.
Yes.
And there's no way, because we need something. And but I think the case of Pakistan is very different from Southeast Asia, like Laos, as you mentioned. I visited Laos in late March this year to see the construction field of China, Laos, and Thailand railway.
Okay.
Being built from Kunming to Xinjiang.
Yes.
And people working there are all Chinese. And actually Laos has a lot of, Chinese inhabitants, Huacha, and old comers. There are so many old comers that came from Yunnan province mainly. And those people are doing business very good in Laos. So a lot of commercial sectors are by Chinese minority, but they are Lao is a citizen. And there are so many people there, but then actually they also speak Mandarin Chinese, but they had actually not so much big contact with mainland China, because they came some 200 years ago, 150 years ago, and they continue to live there. And newcomer came. And newcomer also came from Yunnan, but some people came from the north. The language is different and the culture is different. And now Chinese are doing business, and newcomers are doing business. And Lao people started to accept renminbi somehow. But now Lao Central Bank is doing their best to make their people to use Lao Kip only. And
they will not succeed.
well, but before using renminbi, they have already used US dollar and Thai baht. So they added one Chinese red money. And in case of Pakistan, they don't accept renminbi. Only in Hunza,
I see.
Upper Hunza, they accept Chinese money. But except for that, they requested Pakistani rupee or US dollar. And there is almost no Chinese inhabitants in Pakistan. I think some Hakka came to Pakistan but some 100 years ago, but they are not Chinese anymore. So in that sense, there is zero Chinese along the way. And there are more and more Chinese coming to Hunza, is Papat, Gilgit, or some places. But the number is very small, and I don't think their religious background is so much different from Pakistani people, especially Sunni people. So it takes a long time for Chinese to adapt to their culture. So from that sense, I don't think there are less possibility for China to culturally invade Pakistan.
So, thank you very much for this very revealing topic. But as you know, this stupendous project which China has undertaken, there all over Silk Route is coming up, OBOR, all those things. And there has been a lot of opposition to China, especially even the Southeast Asian countries or Indonesia, they're feeling threat. In Sri Lanka, when they're building the port, Avantota, there has been a lot of opposition. And in Indian subcontinent, India is looking at this development from Karakoram Highway down as an immense amount of threat. But in this case, it has been noticed that Japan has advised India, and Japan is not averse to this development program. In fact, it is quite happy with this, especially what we are doing in Chabad. So, with a rapprochement atmosphere now developing in Southeast Asia, and Japan, country like Japan stepping in, do you think now India and subcontinent will be more active in the CPEC, and other countries may now start looking at it as a matter of progress rather than as a matter of opposition?
Well, JETRO, Japanese External Trade Organization, they are making a report that South Asian countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan has demographically saying is a very young country and with a lot of workforce. So in Japan now, there are so many companies investing in Bangladesh, especially for clothing business. I think there will be also a possibility for these companies to invest in Pakistan. Now is JETRO, Japanese pseudo-governmental organization that promotes investment and trade under the Ministry of Economy and Trade. They are working very hard to make a research on South Asian countries, in India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. And I think that my also small policy recommendation against India is that in case, even though Japanese company try to invest Pakistan, I hope India do not say no to Japanese company or Japanese government for them to invest Pakistan, because if Japanese company is invest Pakistan, then there will be smaller portion of Chinese investment there. So in that sense, thinking about China's as an influence, there should be more investment from other countries other than China. So I think Japan is also doing, trying to do something, but the question is the source of the fund is limited. And China is funding using government's money, and the Japanese doing so with mainly private companies' funds. So the amount is maybe less 2, 3 zeros. So very small amount of money can be invested from a private business because it should be profitable. And the Chinese are doing so even though it is not profitable. So, and also every time in China, I go to China, I say that yes, if you want to make Belt and Road initiative successful, you should be as open-minded as Han people, Tan people, like in Chang'an or Xi'an, in that place. So you have to accept Islamic people, you have to accept the Hindu people, Islam, you have to other is a religion too. But at this moment, the Chinese government is doing making People's Republic of China as a nation state. So they are eliminating the Islamic part of China in their thinking, and they are eliminating Tibetan part of China. So if they do so, they cannot understand what other cultural background people think. And that will result in the failure of their Belt and Road initiative. And I don't think Belt and Road is not so much bad thinking. So if they understand their other countries' culture and make a cooperation with other countries too, with like Japan or India or other countries too, then there are Belt and Road initiative will be very fruitful to make better economic growth in countries around China, including North Korea or Southeast Asian countries and Pakistan, and also Central Asian countries, and some Central European countries like Greece or, and Greece is a South European country, but Czech, Hungary, Serbia, or other not EU country, EU-friendly countries, including Ukraine and Belarus.
If China is allowed to invest in Pakistan and rest of the world, as you have described, won't it lead to some sort of economic imperialism? Why don't Japan steps in so that the Chinese influence, economic imperialism, threat of the imperialism is reduced?
Well, actually, when a country becomes richer, the country wants to do something outside. And we did it after Russo-Japanese War, and we did it very wrong and defeated in the World War II. And so I don't want China to do same kind of mistake, to force their thinking to surrounding countries' people. But I think that the Chinese are doing better than Japanese at this moment. So I hope we can cooperate. So Japan, South Korea, North Korea, China can cooperate in projects, especially in Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia. But as for South Asia or Central Asia, well, since the Japanese company hasn't invested a lot to South Asia or into India a lot, but Central Asia, so it's a little bit difficult for Japanese companies to do more business than Chinese. So it is a limit of our economic facility.
So in 2014, there was an attack in a school in Peshawar. What is the ground reality there now at this moment?
Pardon?
Back in 2014, there was an attack by the Taliban in a school in Peshawar. Right now, what is the security situation there? Number one. Number two, with the CPEC corridor, more and more number of Sunnis are traveling north to Pakistan, where practically there are more Shias and Aga Khani Muslims, and they are now witnessing a kind of threat. What do you think? I mean, as per your opinion, are there any chances of sectarian violence in that region? Reason being is, in 2016, we witnessed a bomb attack in Parachinar in a Shia masjid by the Taliban, and that is something that is basically, I mean, if you extrapolate this thing, so that means that in a coming future there are chances of sectarian violence in that region. What are the chances that this can completely derail the CPEC corridor project? Because that is happening in the north of Pakistan.
Well, I'm very sorry, but I'm not actually a specialist of South Asia or Southwest Asia, so I'm quite ignorant about the confrontation of the religion in this region. So I'm sorry, but I cannot answer this question because I don't know very much about that. And economically, I can say, but in that kind of as a cultural sense, I cannot answer this time. I'm very sorry.
What's your views on China-Myanmar economic corridor?
Myanmar.
Yeah.
Myanmar is also suffering from a lack of infrastructure, and they want to make more ports, more power stations, and more special economic zones. And Japan and South Korea is investing a lot, but it's not enough. And the reason for my opinion, the reason for Myanmar to start opening to Western countries, well, they are too afraid of Chinese. So in that sense, even though Myanmar wants more investments, they will limit the Chinese investment to some extent in order not to be totally governed by Chinese money. So in that sense, yes, they will accept, but not 100% accept Chinese investment, I think.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions because as you are specializing on Korean economic relations. First is, how much is the investment of South Korea in Japan? Do you see because any of their influence or their cars in Pakistan?
South Korea.
South Korean investment or South Korean motor companies in Pakistan during your term, number one. Number two, how much you think the both Koreas to come together? What will be the Chinese step? How much they will allow the unification to happen?
Okay. Okay. I haven't yet collected data of Korean investment in Pakistan in every sector. So I'm not. I know some Hyundai or some other companies are coming to Pakistan, but I don't know the exact amount of investment. And number two, as well, you mean the unification?
Yeah. What will be the Chinese stand? Because it is.
Well, no country around the Korean Peninsula want unification in a very fast, haste manner, because it will bring instability in Korean Peninsula. But as a rule, if the North and the South agree to unify, then we have nothing to say but congratulations. And China also, I think, don't want the unification to come too early, but eventually in 20 years or 30 years, if they won't start to process of unification, then they cannot stop.
What is the economic condition of North Korea as of now?
Actually, they don't openly say their economy, but one scholar from North Korean Academy of Social Sciences said that in 2015, per capita GDP of North Korea was $1,052 US. And maybe now it's 7% or 5% to 7% growth, so it will be 1,100. So it looks like very similar to some Southeast. So Pakistan is 1,700 something, but they spend a lot in military. Some 30% or 40% to military. So actual for ordinary people's life is around, my feeling, $700 something. So they have no oil. They have to import. So there are less and less cars than in Pakistan or in Bangladesh or in India or even in Cuba. And but the situation is getting better and better. And my feeling is I visit North Korea twice a year, and these 5 to 7 years, the economy is getting better and better. So there are more cars in Pyongyang, and now there is a traffic jam. Before there was no traffic jam, but now they have some traffic jam in Pyongyang in the morning and in the evening. So I think after reconciliation with the United States, their economy will grow rapidly, and there will be a problem of parking cars and congestion in Pyongyang in a few years.
Very interesting. Along the route, did you notice if the local handicrafts and traditional economic activities are continuing or disappearing?
I haven't visited such kind of shop very often there, but they have some shops, but the number and the quantity of the things sold were smaller than Southeast Asian countries. But it is mountainous area and there is not so much materials. So compared to that in Laos or Vietnam or some other countries, the quantity and quality is not. Quality is good, but the quantity, there is not so much. Not 100, 200, 300 is a handicrafts are sold in the shop. And this is the first time I visited Pakistan, so I'm sorry I cannot answer very properly.
just last question. You know, the Dawn document, which actually has been as a leaked and it basically puts the whole thing in somewhat negative light, and this is an official document which is attributed to Chinese government. Now, it envisages that the Xinjiang economy would actually be the driving force for the modernization Chinese or the modernization of the Pakistani economy with the help of infrastructure. Now, I'm just wondering, as you mentioned that there are very few trucks in that area and more cars. And also, I do not know how many Pakistani people you saw in Kashgar or Kashgar, for example. Because actually, I think I saw the script. I'm wondering whether the script is Urdu or some other script. Something written there, you know, in 3 languages, Chinese and then Urdu. I don't know if it's Urdu or.
On the pass it was Urdu.
Huh?
On the pass, Chinese.
No. He showed pictures of Kashgar.
This is Uyghur.
Uyghur, written in the Persian script.
Yeah.
Because I think the Chinese now the Uyghur is written in the Chinese script.
No. They don't use.
So they use that. They that. Okay. Anyway, so my point actually is that when you look at your going by your observation, very few commercial trucks, for example, very few commercial trucks. I don't know how many Pakistanis you saw in Kashgar or Kashgar. I'm just wondering, in terms of the scale and the scope of this project, it will take a long time because there is no natural kind of a complementarity between Xinjiang economy and the Pakistani economy. That's just a thought.
Well,
Supplement. Okay.
China is building Gwadar for the benefit of oil imports from Gwadar to along the highway and up to Xinjiang. And what is the impact of the people? Earlier there were hardly people-to-people contact between China and people of Pakistan. It was more at government level till few years back. Has this CPEC made any difference in improving people-to-people relations between Pakistan and China? You mentioned about Karachi-Gwadar road in a bad situation. Infrastructure at Gwadar is also not improved, and it has been there. Development is taking place for last 7-8 years. This shows apathy at the people level, at the local government level on these projects. So could you throw some light on this?
well, so compared to Southeast Asian border with China, like China-Vietnam border or China-Laos border or China-Myanmar border, the mountain, very high mountain, prevent the both countries to do business, actually. And I think it takes a lot of time, 10, 20 years, to improve all the infrastructure from Chinese border to the port of Gwadar. And I think it is a kind of, what to say, just they are afraid of the US blockage of Malacca Strait. In that case, China cannot import oil from Middle East. But the capacity of transport, even though the pipelines all is developed, the capacity of the pipeline cannot support China's demand for oil. Actually, Xinjiang is producing oil. And yes, in 50 years, all the oil will be gone. But there is a huge network of gas and oil pipeline. So after all the oils were gone in Xinjiang, then there will be a possibility to build a pipeline, oil and gas pipeline, from Iran to via Gwadar or some other part of Pakistan to China, or importing some part of oil using a Gwadar port to China. That is reasonable. But I don't think it's for some 20 or 30 years. If the Malacca Strait is not blocked, there is no economic possibility and feasibility for that kind of route to be used for transportation of oil, because it is very costly. So that is just they are saying like that, but actually they want to make a road from China to Pakistan to make business. But as you mentioned, the people-to-people interaction between China and Pakistan, I think it will take more time than that of with Southeast Asian or Northeast Asian countries, because the culture is very much different. And I think the Chinese people have to learn a lot about Muslim people. And they don't know how to treat Uyghur people in the right manner, from my viewpoint. So the encounter with Pakistani people will help Chinese to understand their own Uyghur people also. In that sense, I don't think the Belt and Road Initiative is a bad thing for China and also other country around China. But some countries should be more cautious about lending money from any country, not only from China, but also any country. IMF is also a very dangerous organization. So a lot of countries are suffering.
Actually, on the Muslim, there have been many instances in the past where the Chinese side have closed the Pakistan-China border in the past because they fear the infiltration of a lot of these Taliban or Al-Qaeda, those kind of people, and that fear is still very, very strong in their minds. So and for example, the incident that you mentioned, I think partly now some other place, where the terrorist attack took place, they're actually looking for the Chinese. Because that's the place the Chinese tourists come. And they're actually looking for the Chinese to begin. But fortunately, they are not there.
So
but they were targeted.
EU demanded China to open Afghanistan. China started to build a road, but they stopped for the fear of infiltration of the Taliban movements from Afghanistan.
The bus service was also interrupted for some time.
Yes.
Now is it regular now? Kashgar, Islamabad bus service.
Not Kashgar, Islamabad. It's Kashgar source. Only Kashgar source.
Only of those.
Yeah.
Just a couple of questions. One in fact, something that I haven't been able to pinpoint is when exactly did the CPEC become a flagship project of the BRI? Because even as late as when the first BRI document was unveiled, it was only said that the CPEC and the BCIM were related projects. And somewhere between then and now, the CPEC has become the flagship project. How and when did that happen? That was one question. That it became the one of utmost importance, at least as far as the rhetoric was concerned. Second thing is, I think you correctly said in the beginning that if you look at the Pakistan documents, the CPEC is actually what you said, a collection of projects. And yet it is made to seem just like a road going from point A to point B. And actually what seems to have happened is that a whole lot of potential infrastructure developments, particularly in the power sector, but also in transportation and other things, were put up under this umbrella of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. The third thing is that you travelled on the road from point A to down to point B, but actually there seem to be 3 roads and many competitors for being the road. So would you have any sort of comments on this? There's a lot of competition between different provinces for being part of the show, and many different maps being publicised, and a lot of contestation about that. So in a way, it's almost imaginary, and in a way, it's a reality that you will travel from here to here. But it's not, doesn't seem such a simple product.
Well, from my personal viewpoint, the reason for CPEC becomes a very strong project is that it is, how to say, it is also good for Chinese side to make a project under the umbrella of a CPEC project and get budget from the government. And let's see. Now, actually, I just started the research on the CPEC project, but so I'm not so much deeply. I've not so much deeply made a project or the research on the past the project and relation between China and Pakistan. So maybe I can answer the next time we see after the more thorough examination on all the project and the documents, and I can answer this one. And as for the projects that is now being on the CPEC, it is mainly road and power station projects, and that actually, and they are also making special economic zones. And there are, from my viewpoint, there are so much competition inside Pakistan. So Punjab government is keenly interested in the special economic zones, and they are very eagerly doing the inviting foreign companies. So actually, I was introduced to Punjab officials because my authorization to Gwadar was not issued until the last day. So originally, I was planning to visit 2 special economic zones in Punjab, and they say that a lot of companies choose Punjab, even though it is more than 1,000 kilometers from the seaport, because that Punjab government is more eager to invite foreign investment than Sindhu government. So Sindhu government is because their location is so good, so they are not doing as hardly as Punjab government do. So foreign companies want to have a better counterpart to help their investment. In that sense, yes, since the road are being constructed, so there are more opportunity for inland states of Pakistan to be invested by foreign companies. That is true. So in that sense, for Punjab, that CPEC is very important to make their state to invite foreign direct investment.
So I want to know, okay, is there any unanimous I mean, is there unanimous support throughout the government in Pakistan for CPEC project, or are there any factions within the government that are clearly opposed to this project?
Pardon? Support of what government?
I mean, are there any factions within the government that are clearly opposed to this project, or the support for this project is completely unanimous?
In Pakistan.
In Pakistan.
Faction.
Factions in the government.
I'm not sure. I haven't studied that deeply, so I don't know the fraction amongst is the Pakistani government. I'm sorry.
The reason why I'm asking is because I mean the recent verdict of the Supreme Court of Pakistan against Nawaz Sharif clearly shows that the democracy in Pakistan is strengthening, and this I mean if this goes on smoothly, so in a couple of years, if the democracy clearly becomes stronger in Pakistan, then we may witness some parts of the the government that are opposed to this project. So that is something that I'm very much.
Army loves it. Pakistan Army loves PCBs.
Of course, but if democracy gets stronger, the army may get sidelined.
Also, there's
The possibility is very little. Of course, the possibility is very little. Sorry, I'm sorry for interrupting. The possibility is very little, but is there any possibility? 1%, 2% for it?
Well, since is a Pakistani specialist, I cannot answer this question very easily because each country has each characteristic of domestic policy and domestic politics. So, in general, in Pakistan, Pakistani army is very powerful.
Correct.
So yes, they have to sometimes keep silent about the people's voice. But in the long run, the most powerful people will have the access to that kind of investment. So, well, if Pakistan has better electricity, then all the industry, including military industry, will have a better electricity. And all the roads are getting better, then there will be more mobility for the army. So every infrastructure is dual use. In that sense, it is a little bit difficult to say that every the part or every organization has benefited because they are all benefited from that kind of infrastructure. So except for the problem of repayment, repayment really matters after 2022. So my guess is that that kind of a contradiction comes to a surface after 2022 when Pakistan starts repayment to China.
Correct.
Until then, it is a little bit difficult to see.
Okay.
But there, you can see that there is a certain reservation among many sections of civil society in Pakistan. There's one of the civil society think tanks produces a CPEC monitor in which they're looking at what is proceeding in the right way, what is proceeding in a wrong way, what are the financial implications, what are the factions and groups supporting this or that, and the controversies that have been arising. So there is a watchfulness and wariness also finding expression in some of these institutions.
Thank you very much.
Is this road from Gujarat Pass to Gilgit you mentioned, built by the Chinese, is it being widened or it is staying as it is?
Some 6 meters width.
No, it is being further widened or it is staying as it is?
No. Only one lane, one lane.
Only one lane. So it's not being widened, it's not being made broader.
It's not making broader. This is of no use because if you have a 2 lane, but from Gilgit down,
There is one lane, no, 0.75 lane, 0.75 lane. So there's no use building such a good road.
Anyways, the point is that there is no expansion of road on both sides. I mean, the Chinese part and then the Pakistani part.
Yes, they have finished the tunnel work to reroute the newly developed lake. They made a road, reroute the lake.
So they are building another additional road?
Yes,
or it's
yes,
just
some
combination?
20 kilos. They
What
built
are these tunnels that you
2013.
mentioned?
Yes,
The
yes.
tunnel that you mentioned, that
Yes.
is, and are they wider than the current road or they?
No, same. A little bit wider.
Okay.
Now, will this road that it exists now, can it take heavier commercial vehicles?
Since I went there on the 3rd and 4th of May, and they just opened the border. So I was not able to see a lot of Chinese vehicles coming and forth.
I'm talking of big commercial vehicles. Because commerce depends on, transportation.
Oil tankers.
Oil tankers and things like that. Will they be able to move right now?
The large container trucks.
Yes, from the upper part it's quite possible. But from the lower part is a little bit difficult. So,
Thank you, Chair. Very interesting. Interesting exposition. My humble question is for a coming summit between North Korea and USA, Donald Trump and in June, Singapore. If Japan flew given by Donald Trump an option, Jew was given, is given, and one you have to accept. That is either to withdraw the American troops from Okinawa or to accept the amendment of Article 9. Which one will you choose?
well, my personal opinion is, Article 9. And I don't know, first, US troops go away from Japan. Then Japan has to amend Article 9. And
He agreed. He has given only one out of those two. Which one yours?
it is interconnected, so we cannot choose one. If the US troops go away, then we have to have stronger forces. Then we have to amend Article 9.
But he said, out of two, only one.
Only one. Then amend Article 9 to prepare for US withdrawal.
We are grateful to Professor Mimura Mitsuhiro for his first-hand account of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, his travels on that road and area, Kashgar to Islamabad, and also first-hand account of Gwadar, how it's not developing in spite of 7-8 years. We are grateful to you for your excellent presentation, and thank you so much for the same.